My name is Eleanor Hayes. I am 68 years old. I am a retired accounts officer. And for most of my life, I was the kind of mother people describe as giving. Too giving. I raised my daughter Clara alone after her father died when she was 7. I paid for her education, her wedding, her first car, and later, the deposit on her house. That house is important to this story because, technically, it was never really hers. When Clara married Daniel, they had nothing: entry-level jobs, a small apartment, and a habit of living just slightly beyond their means. It was me who suggested the house. I still remember the Sunday afternoon we drove past it, a pale blue suburban home with a white porch and a young jacaranda tree blooming in the front yard. Clara squeezed my hand and said, "Mom, imagine raising my kids here." I didn't hesitate. I liquidated a fixed deposit I had saved for my retirement buffer. I paid the down payment, and I co-signed the mortgage. My name was quietly added to the documents as a guarantor, not as an owner, because Clara insisted. "Mom, it's my house, but of course you're always welcome." At the time, I believed that sentence meant love. I didn't know it was a boundary. For the first year, everything felt warm. Sunday dinners, holiday decorations, grandchildren calling me Nana. But something began to change when Clara got a promotion, then another. More money came in, but strangely, less respect flowed out. She began correcting me in front of guests. "Mom, that's not how we do things now." Then came the small humiliations. She would move my handbag off the dining chair without asking. She stopped setting a place for me unless I confirmed in advance. And one evening, when I suggested repainting the porch, she laughed. "Mom, please, this is my house. Let me decide how it looks." I remember smiling. I remember nodding. I remember going home and sitting in my car for 10 minutes, just breathing. 3 years into the house, Clara approached me. She said the mortgage payments were becoming stressful, but she didn't want to downsize. Instead, she asked me for help, not a loan, a temporary support arrangement. "Mom, you already helped with the down payment. This is just you continuing to help until we stabilize." I agreed, because that's what I had always done. Every month, I transferred a fixed amount to cover a portion of the mortgage, quietly, consistently, without being asked again, without ever being thanked again. The moment everything changed wasn't loud. It was a dinner party. Clara had invited colleagues, educated people, well-dressed, polished. I brought dessert lemon tart, homemade. One of her guests asked, "Oh, Eleanor, do you live nearby?" Before I could answer, Clara said, "She doesn't live with us. We like our independence." Everyone laughed politely. I laughed too, but something inside me tightened, because the truth was, I had never asked to live with them, but I had paid for the roof they lived under. And in that moment, I understood something quietly devastating. I wasn't part of their life. I was a resource they had outgrown. A few months later, Clara called me into the kitchen. Her tone was different, businesslike. "Mom, Daniel and I have been reviewing finances. We think it's time you stop being involved in the house payments." I blinked. "I thought you needed help?" "We'll manage, but it's cleaner if you're not financially tied to us anymore." Cleaner. Such an interesting word, because I knew something Clara didn't. My name was still legally attached to the mortgage as guarantor. I asked carefully, "Do you want me removed from the agreement?" She hesitated, then said, "Eventually." Yes, eventually, which meant they still needed me. They just didn't want me. That night, I pulled out the mortgage documents I had kept in a folder labeled Clara House. I read every line, every clause, every obligation, and I saw something Clara had never bothered to understand. If payments stopped, the bank would first pursue the guarantor, me, which meant I had legal leverage she didn't realize. That was the night I made my first decision. I would stop reminding her about due dates. I would stop covering shortfalls. I would stop protecting her from consequences she had earned. I wouldn't sabotage. I would simply step back. The first missed payment happened quietly. Clara didn't mention it. Neither did I. The second month, I received a notification. Still, silence. By the third month, the bank contacted me. They explained that the mortgage was in arrears. They asked if I intended to cover the outstanding amount. I paused. I thought of the dinner party. I thought of, we like our independence. And I said, calmly, no. The primary account holders are responsible. That was the moment the wheel began to turn. Late fees accumulated. Penalty interest grew. Clara and Daniel began arguing. I heard about it through my grandson, who mentioned Mom and Dad fighting about money again. But Clara never called me. Not once. Because asking me would mean acknowledging she still needed me. Pride is a very expensive thing to maintain. 6 months after the first missed payment, the bank issued a foreclosure notice. A formal letter. Stamped, final. Clara called me that evening. Panicked. Angry. Accusatory. Mom, why didn't you tell me it was getting this bad? I let the silence sit between us. Then I said, you told me you wanted independence. She cried. But not from remorse. From fear. The house was listed for public auction. Neighbors whispered. Friends avoided eye contact. Clara blamed the economy. Blamed Daniel. Blamed me. But she never blamed herself. I attended the auction quietly. I wore a simple beige coat. I sat at the back. And when the bidding slowed, I raised my hand. Once, twice, 3 times. And just like that, the house that I had funded from the beginning was legally, finally, mine. Clara didn't know it was me who bought it. Not at first. The paperwork took a week. The bank processed the transfer. And then I sent her a letter. Inside was a single key and a note. It read, you wanted independence. I have respected that. This house was never yours to begin with. It was a gift you were trusted to honor. You treated it like an entitlement. I have taken back what I built. You are free now, completely. I didn't move into the house. I didn't sell it either. Instead, I transferred the property into a small housing trust I created called the Hayes Foundation for Widowed Mothers, a place for women who had been abandoned, used, or financially drained by the people they raised. Clara found out 3 weeks later. When she drove past the house and saw a new sign on the front lawn, she came to my apartment, furious, shaking, demanding, how could you do this to your own daughter? I looked at her calmly, and I said something I had never said in her entire life. Because you stopped being my daughter, the moment you started treating me like a burden. Clara didn't speak to me for a year. Daniel left her. The children visited me occasionally, quietly, awkwardly. Life rearranged itself, not loudly, but permanently. People like to think revenge is loud, explosive, emotional. But the most effective revenge is quiet, legal, irreversible, and morally uncomfortable. Because even now, sometimes at night, I wonder, did I teach my daughter a lesson? Or did I simply prove that she learned her entitlement from me? Either way, the house stands, full of women who say thank you when they walk through the door. And for the first time in my life, I no longer feel like I am taking up space. I feel like I finally own it.
Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this, go watch the one on the left and don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel for more tales of triumph over injustice and a saga of ultimate revenge.